All right, guys. So we're in week 7. It's our last lecture, and we're going to talk about the economics of the Super Bowl. But the Super Bowl is just a method to talk about the economics of big events. It what we talk about in this is really not going to vary any based on. It's going to be the same for any big event. So understand, obviously, the Super Bowl is a hugely significant sporting event. It has high ticket prices, advertising, it's a neutral site. You can kind of see some of the television viewership, number of people who view that in that time, that 9-year time span will give you an idea of kind of um, um, how it is. And the NFL claims to generate a lot of benefit for host cities. And understand that host cities have to bid for these big events like the Super Bowl, and they're promised a lot. But depending on who does the economic impact based on the numbers that you're going to get. And so you can kind of look at just kind of similar numbers to talk about, and we'll kind of explain why these numbers really aren't true. So the NFL uses the Super Bowl to get public subsidies, and what that means is that you're not going to host a Super Bowl unless you have a new stadium. The new stadiums are what gets them. And so in order to get those new stadiums, you have to get taxpayer money. And so you have to look at pretty much everybody who hosts a Super Bowl. They get to host it within just a handful of years after building a new stadium. And so this is how they measure economic impact at a Super Bowl or any big event. They take the number of visitors and they come up with an idea of how much money those people are spending. And the way they do that is by coming up with, they do surveys and they figure out, well, what does the average person spend on travel, on food, on lodging? And they multiply that out and they get the direct impact. Okay, in this case, they're saying that there's 306,000 visitors that spent $250 each, which is $77 million. But then they do a multiplying effect. And what that multiplier effect is they assume that they can't capture everybody, and so the number must be higher. So they take whatever the direct impact is and they multiply it by some random number. Could be 2, could be 3, could be 4, could be up to 7. And that's how you get these astronomical numbers. And so we're going to look at really the 3 reasons why this doesn't work. So the first one is substitution. So understand that the money people spend on a sporting event, they're going to spend elsewhere. Okay? And so you have few local people who attend these mega events. So the money doesn't stay there very long. And so let me give you an example of a different way of thinking about it. Let's say that I go to, I'm going to go to Braves game and I'm going to go out to eat, and I eat at the Battery. I spend $100 for my family. Well, I was going to spend that $100 anyway going out to eat somewhere. It just happened to be there. And understand that most of the people who get to go to the games aren't local fans. They're not even fans. Most of those people are tickets to go to family or participants, to the host team, sponsors, networks. Very few go to actual fans. You also get a crowding out effect. And what this means is that when mega events come in, a lot of the people who are normal people who live in that city get out. Okay, they don't want to be in there around those large crowds. And so you don't get the local impact that you would have if you had the people who actually live there. Give you another example, especially in high tourism cities. If the Super Bowl comes, or a big event like NCAA or something like that comes to those events, then other tourism type activities don't come. Okay, so for instance, conventions, big time things that would also bring in money don't come because they're crowded out. And then the last one is leakage. And it's money that's made may not gets out of the city. So, for instance, hotels raise their rates 3 to 4 times higher during the Super Bowl. And most of that money doesn't stay in the local government or local city. It goes to shareholders. So, for instance, like when Jacksonville hosted the Super Bowl, they brought in cruise ships to hold extra guests. That money's not going into the local economy; it's going to those cruise ships. Some other issues: you get some kind of casual visitors, so tourists who just won't go because of all the stuff going on, and that's money that would have been spent that doesn't get spent. You have also people who will switch plans or cross off vacations they had planned to a city because of big events being there. And so basically, the real independent scholars that aren't hired by the NFL figure out that there's just a fraction of the money generated by these big events that is claimed. So you can kind of look. I'm not going to read all these to you, but these are just ideas of the amount of money that independent people have came up to show that events actually bring in. And so it's really hard to isolate an economy, a metropolitan economy within a larger economy. And so it's hard to say whether these really big events actually do anything. And there's really no true way to measure it, and it sure doesn't measure what the NFL claims it measures. And so just understand that as you look through this PowerPoint and you see this, you're going to see that it doesn't pay to host a big event. It might be nice for the publicity to showcase the city. That's definitely a plus to it. But from a money standpoint, it doesn't help. Now, there are some benefits outside of money. Obviously hosting a big event in a city creates kind of powerful feelings, good feelings about a city. You might get people who go to that event and decide to return. It's good advertisement. And so there is some value in those type commercials, but it's very short-lived. Think about all the big events you watch, Super Bowls you watch, things like that, and you see advertisements for the host city, and really after it's over, you really never think anything about it. It's not like you just go ahead and automatically say, hey, I'm going to go book one of those. It just doesn't happen. So bottom line is, guys, is the NFL tries to convince cities to build new stadiums because it's going to create economic impact, and you should be skeptical of it. People who aren't attached to the NFL, who do real economic studies, basically find that there are some value to it, but it's a fraction of what the NFL claims. All right, thanks a lot, guys.